Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm so excited to be back in our next segment here. I have this amazing expert, Mrs. Jessica Bonner Gomez. I'm so excited to have her on. I've been following you, Jessica, for a while now for the test prep strategies and tools and wealth of knowledge that you share. So, welcome to
Thank
this
you.
segment and tell us about yourself.
Okay. So I am a tutor based in Birmingham, Alabama. I've been running my business for other prizes for the last 4 years, going on about 5 years next June. And so
Wow.
I specialize, yes, I love it. I love it. Ever since I've been working and opening it, I love it because I love tutoring. I'm also a speech pathologist in a Birmingham City school system. So, but my main passion is tutoring. And so my business specializes in reading, English, math up until pre-calculus, as well as ACT, SAT, GRE, ASVAB, and GED. So I do all of those areas there, and I normally work with populations. It could be kids, and I've worked with them as young as kindergarten, and then I work all the way throughout high school and college, and even returning adult college students. So I have one of those that I tutor as well right now.
Wow. And that is so awesome. I love that you cover the whole population because somebody
Mhm.
could be watching right now that has a child in elementary school and with what's going on, maybe they're not in classes right now and they may be behind. And so that's
Right.
great that they come to you and you can help them with that.
Exactly. I love working with my group. I always learn something new from everyone. I wouldn't even count anyone out.
Yes, and I'll say this before I get into our first question, and Jessica, I'm sure you've heard it too. I think parents have a new appreciation for education and tutors right now because they're probably having to play teacher a little bit.
Right, exactly.
Oh yeah. So I want to get into this first one. So we're going to talk about college entrance exams. So I know that you cover, like you said, GRE, ACT, SAT as well. So we're in this pandemic right now, and we were just talking. For those that are watching and listening offline, we were just talking about that the pandemic hasn't stopped. It hasn't gone anywhere right now. So should students that are preparing to go to college or preparing to do a graduate degree should they still be preparing to take those exams right now?
I would definitely say yes. And interestingly, it's interesting you said that, for instance, with the graduate degree side of it. There's a student, he's prepping me with me right now for the GRE. And so especially for those graduate students, there are fewer schools waiving that that standardized exam versus your undergraduate programs. And so, and especially if you're trying to get into a really competitive program, on average, most of those schools are still requiring those tests. So
Wow.
he tried to get into physical therapy, for instance, and just like I try to get into speech pathology, it's extremely competitive, very difficult to get into those programs. Not impossible, but it's pretty tricky and difficult. So I highly recommend staying true to studying for those exams, as well as even if you're an undergrad, even I've heard of the test optional feature that a lot of schools are going with, and I would still even take the exam knowing that that's the test optional is there because I was reading up about it and learning that yeah, you can opt to not take it, but then the admissions office, they're going to look closely more so at the other aspects of your application. And so, for instance, if you're not as strong in maybe the grades or those what is that, volunteer efforts that you needed to have had, those volunteer hours, maybe your application won't be as strong. So then the test score can help boost it in that way. And I've also learned that scholarships. So you Ashley, you know a lot about scholarships. Yes, that can boost your opportunity to get scholarships. So definitely taking the exams, even if you feel like you don't have to, would be better for you in the long run.
I agree. And I'm glad you talk about the competition factor because it is huge. And I can say on the scholarship side, for those that are watching or listening, and this is why I had to bring Jessica on here, is because there are organizations that are giving you money based on your, SAT, ACT scores, the GRE, but also they may also be looking at your transcripts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you, again, like Jessica mentioned in our opening, if you're having some trouble with math, or ELA, reading comprehension. You also need to seek out her services as well. And we'll get into that in just a second here because she can help on both aspects. Right, Jessica?
Yes, I can.
Awesome, awesome. And you know what? I have to agree with you when you were talking again about the competition piece. Because I think a lot of students and families are like, oh, that's one less thing I have to worry about.
Mhm.
The world is kind of in a recess moment anyway, but
Mhm.
it's ramping up. People are still applying right now. Like you said, you have a client right now who's preparing for physical therapy school.
Hmm. Yes, exactly. And so he's taken it already second time, and he worked with me to prepare for that second time. And he had interestingly on his GRE, he boosted his score by 14 points. I was excited about that. So he's still just
Hey!
under. I know, I'm excited. I was like, wow. And then he's still just under what he needs, but he's ever closer to reaching that goal, what he needs to be more competitive for that grad school program. So he's just come back to me. He took like a month break, which I don't blame him. Like, well, yeah, if
Yeah,
I jumped at 14 points, I would give myself a month break too. And so he's come
yeah.
back, and we're jumping back into it again, and we're determined to get that 8 point gap closed, so he can get that score that he needs to make him more competitive for that program.
That's right. And I love that. And that speaks to the strategies and what you bring. And also you bring that educator piece as well, because I
Mhm.
tell people it is a skill to teach anybody anything. It
Yes,
takes skill.
yes, and like I said, I love tutoring. It's like I don't know. I guess that's like my spirit job. Like people say they have a spirit animal. That's my spirit job.
Yes. Well, I'm glad it is because you do a good job at it. So
Thank you, thank you.
I'm glad you're in that lane. You're definitely, I would say, in the right lane. But I want to get into next. So, let's say you're working with a student or someone's considering even working with a tutor. What are some of the mistakes that you're seeing that students make when they're preparing for to take these college entrance exams?
One thing I would say is, for instance, they're not looking at their weaknesses. They kind of just go in. They know they need to study for the exam, but they really
Mhm.
haven't assessed themselves to determine like where really are my weak areas. Like, and then and distinguishing that from your strengths, because obviously if you're strong in something, you don't need to focus on that as much when you're preparing for an exam versus your weaknesses. And sometimes all it takes is just you put in just enough effort to getting down the weakness, at least enough that you
Mhm.
can boost your points up such that your strength areas, you already have a decent score there, and then you boost up some of the weaknesses, and there you go. Hey, you can have a score just like that helps you to get to where you need to be. Also, I would say, for instance, I've had this happen before. I know some students, there's that extracurricular. Some people do extracurriculars. I understand that. I understand that's a big deal. That's important. And also, some people have friends. I would kind of say, like, just find a way to balance all of that. Now, specifically for me, I mean, when it comes to the friends, I would just be like, I would tell my friends, like, hey, or like even boyfriend and girlfriend. I know I worked with somebody this year. It was a young lady, very respectable young lady, but I perceived that she was probably spending like a little bit too much time with her boyfriend. And
Mhm.
I personally don't see realistically how you can do that. And if you're trying to get into a really prestigious college, because she's trying to actually get into a prestigious college, I think in the Northeast, and
Wow.
I don't see how you can do both. Like you're gonna have to choose. Like I know that's hard and that's your boo and things like that,
Right.
but you're gonna have to choose which one is more important at the end of the day, because and we've been teenagers once, we've had boyfriends and whatnot, and things haven't worked out. We don't know where we're going to be in the next 5 years with that person. So at the end of the day, would you rather choose your education or this lover who you might not have in the future?
Mhm.
So I would try to, do something where I minimize that time with those friends, that boyfriend, girlfriend, just so you can get your work done, your studying done. Because that is a big mistake that can be made. And I feel like when I've seen people put too much time either into that or like their extracurriculars too much, and you're not giving yourself enough time to study, on average, every single time, it doesn't matter what I do, their score still is not anywhere close to what they wanted it to be.
Wow. That's good. Oh
Yes.
my goodness, you shared so much, Jessica, in like a few seconds. But I love the first part. You have to know your weaknesses. That means that, and I hope I'm using the right word, but you should be doing some kind of diagnostic,
Yeah, I
kind
agree.
of assess.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely. Yes, and then also I'm just thinking too, I'm so glad you brought up the relationship piece or just the time management piece, because
Mhm.
there could be so many different things, vying for our attention, but we have to be intentional,
Yeah,
about the fact that I want this score.
yeah.
And like you said, Jessica, you could come with these with the winning strategies, everything in place, but if they don't execute it, then like you said, they're not going to be satisfied or they're not going to accomplish that goal of the score that
Yeah.
they want. And I want to bring in another piece. What do you so? Tell me, have you ever had experience working with students that have test anxiety? And if so, how do you help them deal with the anxiety with testing?
I try to see, where they are. For instance, I'll use that student I'm talking about with the GRE, who actually is a really good example of who won that when we did not do our sessions twice a week, he went on his own every day and studied. And that's why he got that 14-point jump. I mean, honestly, I'm going to give him credit where it's due. I mean, he put the work in. So he did have some anxiety regarding some portions of the test. For instance, there was a writing portion. He was very anxious about it because guess what? He does not like writing. Okay, that's fine. So I like to do things, for instance, with music when it comes to students who are more anxious and maybe they're not your traditional test takers. They learn differently. And maybe they can't just sit there and look at a book and feel like they absorb the information. So I told him one day, I said, okay, let's start here. Let's start here. Let's start with a song. I want you to look at the song and break it down to the pieces. Look at these elements here. What can you pull from it? What kind of interpretation can you come up with it from that song? So for him, it was more interesting because it was a song he already liked, right? He broke down the lyrics. I think it calmed him down and made him more calm. So guess what he did after that? He jumped into his, he had Magoosh, that's his study tool he used, and they had these example prompts. And by the next time I met with him, he had gone through one of those, and he felt very confident how he had done it. I looked it over, and overall, it was not bad. So it was like I felt like starting off with something that was familiar to him, that he knew he could grasp, and then working our way up from that was a big benefit. So that's what I love to do to help students.
That is great. You know what? I love that tip. For everyone that is listening or watching, I like seriously need you to take notes on that and go do that with the parent or the teacher listening or the child yourself. Because you're right, Jessica. So many students relate, and I'll just say people. We music is a part of our culture. You know, it's a part of commercials, TV shows, like you said. If even if we're just listening to the radio or just our favorite song, like on Spotify. So I love that you took something like you said, familiar, and you
Mhm.
were able to help him to process through that anxiety. That is
Yeah,
amazing.
he was so much more confident in the area. I was so proud. I was like, oh my goodness, really? Wow.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm all for the music.
Yeah, I mean, I'm loving music. I'm like, who doesn't like music? So I'm like, if
Right.
nothing else, I can use that to help them feel a bit more confident.
Yes, and you know what? That's what it's all about. Is they lack that confidence, but once they feel confident and they've gone through it and they've got your guidance, like you said, we saw that 14 or you saw that 14-point jump. So
Mhm.
that it works.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that. And that's my whole goal and intention.
Yes, and so you know, I've enjoyed this. I'm learning some things that I'm going to be passing on to my students as well. But Jessica, I kind of want to get in with this is as we've been talking about is you have your tutoring company when you're not being a speech pathologist, and so you work with students on these different strategies, whether
Mhm.
it's music, and help them to break down concepts. And I want to throw in this plug since I follow Jessica on Instagram. I love how you show the problem and it being worked out. I think that is just what we need. I think it's
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank
So
you.
you're welcome. So kind of tell us how do you support a student? What kind of offerings do you offer with your services, and how can they get in touch with you to start working with you?
Yes. Okay. So one of them is the one-on-one option. And that one-on-one option, it is an hour so for each time, and so we can schedule. I can work with the parent or the student if they're old enough to handle it themselves. About how many times a week that we're working out. So there's that one-on-one option. Then I also have a group option. So if that student is interested, maybe a friend is also trying to study. Say, for instance, they're studying for the ACT, and you have a group of friends. And so normally I will take up to about 5 people in a group to work to all together for one tutoring session. Okay, so those are my two options. It's kind of like you're working directly with me. Then also recently, I have opened up my monthly membership group. It's called the Insider Secrets to the ACT and SAT. And so it's a membership. Yeah, that's a monthly membership that I started offering recently. And so it will have some resources in there for the students to be able to learn more about the ACT and SAT, as well as me just coming in maybe 2 or 3 times a month and giving some master classes that students can take notes on, and then also practice prompts. And then my other offering is my music, math, and more 6-week course. And so that's, as you can hear right there, music. And so,
Yes,
like
I
I
love it
say,
already.
so the music, math, and more course, and it's called for the ACT, SAT students, it's called after that the the ACT, SAT experience. That's what it's called. So music, math, and more, ACT, SAT experience. Because I wanted to be an experience when you come in and work with me once a week. And
Yeah.
then I give you homework at the end of every session, which will be like an hour-long session, and it'll be live. And then you go and create your own TikTok or Reel video. Choose
Mhm.
whatever music you want to, it does not matter, and demonstrate the concept that I've given you for your homework. So the hope with that is that the student create their own study guide of just a bunch of reels or TikToks, which I think is pretty cool because they can watch it over and over again because automatically those videos loop automatically. And so that's the repetition that students need. And then every time they submit one to me, I can give them feedback and we can tweak it however we need to make it better. So it's more of a better tool for them to utilize. And then the only other thing I have is my Music, Math, and More, the Experience video book that I'm releasing on the 27th. So it's on pre-order right now.
Yay.
Yeah, so the Black Friday, that's when it's releasing. And so that's going to be it's going to consist of some reels and TikTok videos that I've been making, and I'm still making some new ones that people have never seen before, and also as well some brief short instructional videos of myself explaining the concept, and then of course the TikTok videos will be the demonstration videos.
Awesome. I'm excited. Okay, you guys heard Jessica. So Black Friday, set aside some coins, okay? Because we need to get this. I mean that is so innovative to me, and I love it. And I wanted to throw this in there too. And of course, I will have Jessica's, all of her links and everything at the bottom of the show notes. So you guys can go follow her on Instagram and everywhere. But one thing I love too, Jessica, that you do is on Instagram, not only do you show the TikTok videos and the different, problems and breaking it down, but you also show the feedback from the students. So we can see what was the impact of you working, with that particular student. So we know that, you're legit. I know you're legit, but the world knows you're legit. So I love that you share that feedback.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I love it too. Like, for instance, when I see the feedback from the students, I mean, it gives me so much joy, and that's what keeps me moving and driving forward to keep tweaking it as I need to make it better and more usable by our students, so they can get to their next level, get their scholarships, and get into their dream programs.
Absolutely. So I'd say this to everybody again that's watching or listening. From an academic side, getting into college, you need to get a hold of Jessica because I don't know how many spots she has left for her membership or her other classes and tutoring and trainings. But you need to get a hold of her because we need to get you into college with the best score. But also, it's tied to the money. It's so much money out there that is literally resting on test scores.
Yeah.
It's just the way that some things work. Some scholarships. So definitely get in touch with Jessica like today.
Well,
Yes. So Jessica, I'm going to let you leave us with your final statement, final wisdom, whatever you want to share with us.
okay, just for any student, for me, I'm always a 100% a big believer in student ability. And so no matter who you are, what background you've come from, you do have the ability to excel and succeed. And you just have to be committed to just sit down, give yourself some time to sit down, pick up your weaknesses, focus on studying for those things or whatever method that you can use for yourself that you found work in the past in the classroom to help you excel. Utilize those. Don't watch what the world is doing. If the world's telling you to do it this way and other students excel in that way, don't focus on that if you have a particular way that works for you, because more than likely that's going to get you from point A to point B. So keep that in mind.
I love it. Thank you so much. We're definitely going to have to do this again because
Thank you.
now we're going to have to do just a music and math session with you now.
All right. Okay.
That'll be the next interview.
Yes, yes.
Again, thank you so, so much.
Thank you for having me.